Well, good afternoon, everybody. I work for the Internal Revenue Service. I've worked for them for a little over 4 years, and my primary job is to work with candidates who wish to come on either through a veteran's preference, whether it's a 5 or 10 point preference. And we can discuss that. And if you have any questions, you can ask them later on in the webinar, as well as individuals with disabilities, which can also work for veterans. But before you actually get brought on, you have to have a resume. And I am sure that you have heard many things on use this format or use that format. And to be very honest, there is not one tried and true, always use this format for the federal side of employment or use this format for the private side of the employment picture. However, I hope to bring you some ideas that will make your resume not only more readable, but give enough information that you are going to qualify for the position. Because whether it's on the federal or the private side of the house, if you don't qualify, it doesn't matter what your skill set really is. So you will get my contact information is at the end of the presentation. At the end, if you have questions and you want to send them to me through my contact information, I would appreciate that. Please put in the subject line that you were attending the Grantham webinar today so I can address specifically what you're looking for and not put you in the I'll get to you folder. So as you can see on the screen right now, it says who, what, and where. Well, obviously I have to know who you are. I need a very clear name. I need your address and your contact email address. I understand this is a no-brainer in most people's mind, especially people that have been in the military. However, you would be surprised. I will get resumes that they forget to put in their name, or they omit a contact email address, or the email address is one replete with numbers or additional letters. I suggest that you don't do that because numbers and letters do get transposed and then you never get the email. Please pick one email address that is only for your job contacts. And you can either use one that comes in through your own personal network, or if you want to use one of the internet networks, Gmail, Hotmail, it doesn't matter. So the what is the objective? And this seems to be still a sticking point with a lot of people. It also seems to be an area that people still think they have to put in. Why is my question. If you are sending me your resume, if you're sending it into an application bank, if you're seeing me or anyone else on a or during a career fair and you're handing me your resume, I don't think you're out there ordering Chinese food. So why would you put an objective? Your objective is one thing and one thing only, and that is so I look at you as a viable candidate and consider you for a position, or consider having you recommended to a manager for a possible review and consideration for a position. So unless your objective is incredibly unique, you have some very unique job skill pertinent to that industry, or it is such a strong lead, use the spaces for something else, such as more experience. And then the where, if you do not wish to work in specific areas, then write exactly where you're willing to accept a position. And if you're willing to relocate, keep in mind that most federal agencies and even more and more of your private companies do not pay relocation expenses. Don't say you're willing to relocate when clearly this is not something you can do. Or if you are in a relationship with other people that will be relocating with you, do yourself a favor, check with them first. I don't want to see any broken homes over you walking in one day and saying, hey, guess what? We're moving to Geneseo, New York. And your wife, husband, significant other hates the cold. So be clear. Don't be afraid to be honest. it gets you far more points than just saying, I'll take a job anywhere and then start ticking off where you can't. So that's the information on that slide. Do not put any part thereof of your social security number. Any company or federal agency says that they are tracking you by at least your last four. Please note that that is against the law, and that is from the Social Security Agency themselves, and I count them as the expert on that level. You can only be requested to supply your Social Security once a conditional letter of employment has been sent to you, not even your last four. It's considered private identifying information. And if I have your last four, your name, your address, and employment history, with enough research, I can find you. I can find out your full social, and that will lead you to identity theft. So please don't do that. Stand your ground if need be. You all have probably been in the military. You know what it is to stand the ground. So what are you going to do with a resume? You have an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, or an 8.5 by 11 piece of screen paper open to you, and you have to put on it something incredibly dynamic and interesting, or it's going to not make anybody's desk. So we're going to talk about federal resumes. Those are the ones that I know best. Those are the ones that I review. I have reviewed in the last 4 years, I would say anywhere between 2,500 and 3,000 resumes. I will tell you, I've seen amazingly well-written resumes. I've seen good, solid resumes. And then I've seen the "what were you thinking" resume. And don't assume simply because it was somebody that didn't have a strong skill set, because I've known resumes that are not strong, that have strong skill sets, but the format was horrible. So here we go. You have to write incomplete sentences, something that a lot of people have given up as their idea of how to communicate. You have to understand that your oral skills are extremely important in the interview, as well as relating with your colleagues. But if you can't write well, then you are not going to make the grade, because everything is documented, whether it's in an email, or if you're on the technical side of employment, it's on a technical manual. It is writing to your manager, or writing to your, an executive, whatever it may be. Poorly formed messages are horrible. Don't use text language in your resume. And I'm sure that the people that are listening to this are thinking, I'm crazy. I am, at least according to my husband. However, I've seen it in resumes. It's horrible. Don't write it in your email to me either. If you're sending me your resume and you want me to review your resume and then possibly send it to a manager for review and consideration, and you send me an email replete with text language, misspelled words, and poor punctuation and grammar, it's highly unlikely that that's going to make it out of my inbox, because I have to stand behind the message that I'm sending. So you should write in paragraph form. They don't have to be long-winded. Just tell me, what do you do? All right? Don't tell me that you work in the IT arena, and I'm going to pick IT for obvious reasons. It's one of the hottest job markets still. Don't tell me that you write in specific programming languages, or you're a network end of it and you've built servers, or you've laid T1 and such lines and cables, without telling me what you did to analyze the project, what you did to actually perform the actions taken to complete the project, and what the results of the project were. Don't tell me that you write programs, but you don't give me an idea how many programs you've approximately written, or if you've been a team lead, or if you've actually moved in a supervisory level. And if you have military experience, and I don't see very very clear language of leadership, of being able to take responsibility, of being able to move the project from the beginning to the end and attend to all of the middle parts, there's something wrong, regardless of what your degree program may be or what you held as a position in the military. I better see it because I'll send it back to you and ask you why not. So how do we qualify you? Well, if you apply through the website USA Jobs, which I will admit is not user-friendly, I didn't build it, so you'll have to complain to someone else, all right? And your resume comes in, you've uploaded all your supporting documents, and we'll talk about those in a few moments. And I'm the HR specialist, and I'm looking at this resume. This is how determination is made. We use a standard position description. The manager chooses the position description, and this is for all federal agencies, all right? So the manager says, I want to hire, again, we'll go to the an IT specialist, and that is Job Series 2210, and it's going to be a programmer, and it's going to be at the GS 1213 level. So they send that position description. The HR specialist makes sure that all your documentation is in order and complete. And then they go through your resume point by point that is described for the qualifications of that position in the position description. Each section has a point value weighed against it. Total aggregate points comes out to a category rating and a rating of qualifications. So as you can see on the slide, if you don't make best or superior in category A, you will never be looked at. And I'm going to be very honest through this seminar. There is no reason in me telling you that category B and C candidates are looked at, because it's not true, because there are far too many category A. Category A is your better ranked candidates. Even if you are a veteran with a 10-point, 30% or above compensatory status, if you don't make category A, you will not be looked at. So let's go to the next slide. And you're all very quiet. There's no questions coming in. So by all means, start sending them in, please. So here's a sample on the top. You can see I picked the technical side of the house, and I will discuss other things with you other than requirements for the IT part of the house. If you're looking for accounting or finance or HR or an economist, or name the category, and more than likely it is something that we actually hire into. So I'm going to hold off 1 second. There is a question regarding KSAs. All right, here's the scoop on KSAs. Back in 2011, I believe it was, KSAs went away magically. December 30th of 2011, poof, they're gone. However, there's a little something else. You do have short essay questions to answer. To me, it's still a KSA, because that essay question is still asking me, the candidate, to let the agency know my knowledge, skills, and abilities. It's just not as long-winded. Your KSA should be addressed in your resume. If you're not telling me your skills and abilities and the knowledge that you hold on that, why would I even consider your resume, let alone even do a deeper dive on you and look at your KSAs? So the VA, I'm assuming, is the Veterans Association, is fond of asking for KSAs on applications. They're not supposed to, but as I said, they skirt the issue. Not just the VA, but a lot of federal agencies skirt the issue by asking it through an essay type question. And as I said, it should be covered in the resume. So the top part of the slide is bullet language. It has no punctuation. It doesn't have to start with a capitalized letter. And as long as it doesn't have a period on the end, it doesn't matter. Doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't tell me what this person did as a technical project manager, what methodologies. I have no idea. And define what a medium to a large scale project is. In some instances, for a small company, a medium scale project can be a $5,000 to $10,000 project, and a large scale could be, up to $20,000. In the federal government and a lot of your large private industries, you could be looking at a medium or small at 1 million over a course of a year to several million or up to a billion over the course of maybe a 5 to 6 year plan. There's a vast difference. I may think you're competent of managing a $5,000 budget, but I don't know if you're competent to be on the team to manage $1 billion budget. If you're telling me that you manage, your team and your vendors, you have to give me information. How many people were on that team? What did you do with the vendors? So let's go down to the detail point. Oh, now this tells me quite a bit. Your software, you're an engineer on SharePoint. SharePoint is the hot button topic, and most people do not know how to use it. All right. If you're telling me you develop training manuals, that tells me that you not only can write in technical language, but it also lets me know that you have the ability to write well, assumably. All right. I see right there you have a percentage. Your average downtime was less than 5%. That's fantastic. I don't know if anybody can really claim that, but it would be fantastic. And if you have trained 35 people and you had a success rate of 95%, I'm very interested in you now. All right. As you can see, it goes down. If you just, you manage SQL clusters, in what series of the SQL clusters, what did you do with them? So if you're telling me that you can work with Oracle databases, I have gestalt on this resume now. I know what you're doing. I will tell you that numbers and percentages of improvement definitely speaks volumes. Don't use that as your sole justification, but put it in when necessary. So one of the questions is, what is the standard length of a federal resume? That's a very hard thing to say. If you are just out of your collegiate years, you've had no experience at all, other than maybe an internship, possibly some summertime work, probably 1 page, unless you've had a very significant internship, and then you might go to a page and a third. If you've done a full tour in the military, so you've actually come out and you've retired, you've done 20 and above, or you've done 10, you've had several deployments, you've had your significant position in the military is in line with your degree, I would hope to see at least a 2 to 3 page. Much over 3 pages, you might be getting too long in the tooth. However, I wouldn't be able to really say until I've seen it. I have seen 4 to 5 page resumes that were so well done and had such rich information that I didn't, or HR didn't buck at the length. Any position other than a position you've held with the same organization, military counts. For that is 10 years in the past, please just list the employer name, your title, and the month, year, month, year that you work. Yes, in the civilian world, we use month, year, and not year, month, date. So just keep that in mind also. And speaking of which, keep in mind that if you use acronyms, no matter what the acronym is, unless it's a standard acronym such as SQL or HR specialist or something of that, you have to spell it out. Don't assume that because your commanding officer got it, the civilian world will get it, because they may not. And I will tell you what the volume of resumes that are received per job announcement, they're not going to call you back and ask you, what does this mean? They're just going to go on, and you may not get qualified for that. So, excuse me. So here we go. How do you come into the federal government? Well, there's the competitive side, You see a position announced on USA Jobs and you think you meet the qualifications. You do everything it says to do on USA Jobs, sending in your resume. And if you are a veteran, you're going to send in at least one DD 214 and you apply competitively. And your resume goes against the probably upwards of 5,000 and more, depending on the job and the job series, candidates. Some immediately will become disqualified because they either didn't send in all their appropriate documents or they clearly didn't meet the qualification, even the minimum qualifications. If you meet all the minimum qualifications, then your resume goes forward and it has to be completely adjudicated. So it has to go through that qualification process. But what if you want to come in as a non-competitive candidate? Well, you can. And actually, I suggest when applying for a position, if you can come in as a non-competitive candidate, you apply as a competitive candidate, and then you back out of the application and you go right back in and you apply as a non-competitive, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. So Schedule A hiring authority. That's one of the hiring authorities that I work with, and I will tell you that I know it well, and I know how to devise how what candidate will or will not make it, and I also know the laws and the legality part of it that's surrounded by it. But as you can see, there is a code up there, and it's the ubiquitous 5 CFR 213.312 paren U close paren. Why would you, we'll say somebody that is just left the military service, want to be concerned about that? Because if you're waiting for your VA rating and you just applied for your VA rating, I will be very honest with you, unless you are still, unless you are 100% disabled, the chances of getting your medical rating before you are discharged are slim to not happening. The average wait time now is at least 15 and to approximately 18 or more months. Meanwhile, you're without a job. So if you feel that you meet the criteria, send me an email, ask me to send you a copy of a standard Schedule A letter. You can take it to any licensed medical professional in the United States or territories, or any vocational rehabilitation counselor, and ask them to fill out or write you a Schedule A letter. You can then apply as a non-competitive candidate. If you get hired in the interim before your rating is produced by the VA, and you do find out that you are a 10-point veteran with a 30% or above compensatory rating, you can always go back in, update your HR profile, and then if you have to apply for any other positions or you're applying for a promotion, your 10 points will come in mighty handy to you. Both areas, whether it's a disabled veteran or a Schedule A individual, the law mandates that you are placed under a 2-year probationary period. You may now start saying boo hiss and why, and it's not fair. Thank you. It's all been said before, and I agree with you. Unfortunately, I'm not OPM, and that's how the law was written, and for as far as I know, that's the way it's going to stay unless Congress makes a change to it. So it's a 2-year probationary period. Assumably, if you finish your 2-year probationary period and all is well, you have good evaluations, the manager will convert you to career permanent and you're good to go. Let me add one thing. If you are hired, whether it's Schedule A or you come in through one of the VA hiring authorities, and you're working for Federal Agency A, and you see a job at Federal Agency B, you apply, you're accepted, and there's no break in service. So there's not even a half a day where you are not in paid status. using vacation time is considered paid status, and you go from agency A to agency B, your probationary time does not start all over again. And if someone tells you that it does, again, reach out to me and I will send you the OPM guidelines, because I've verified it with the person who pushes those guidelines, and it does not. If you go from agency position A and you still stay in that same agency, but you get, you apply for a better position or one more in line with your skill set, again, no break in service, your time does not start again. It's 2 years and 2 years only. Otherwise, we could keep you on probation forever. If there's a break in service, it does start again. If you become career permanent and you apply under either of these authorities, it starts again. If you applied as a competitive candidate, was hired, and you are immediately hired into career permanent, and then use one of these authorities, your probationary time starts all over again. So I wanted to be very clear and very upfront with that. If you need me to put that all in writing, I will, but I don't want anyone to be told that their probationary period starts again, or think that once they've completed 2 years and they use these authorities again, that they don't have to go back under probationary periods, because you do. All right. So what do you need? As I said, you need the letter. All right. I will send you a copy. It is the simplest letter that a medical physician could ever write. It's probably all of 5 sentences. I'm open for questions. I want to hear from you, because I can't read your minds. All right. I don't know what to provide to you. I can go on about what should or should not be in a resume. I don't want to see, I've had people send me their resumes, whether they're military or not, and they add information about, what their family is like, or their family makeup. I've seen things where they list hobbies, and they list obscure hobbies or way too many. I don't want to see that. I want to know, what can you bring to my employment table? So someone wants to know if you've had previous federal experience, such as a summer employee, or is this student role, which I'm assuming as an intern. How do you find out if it was competitive or non-competitive? You would have received, for every federal job you've held, whether it's an internship position, and I'll go over that in a moment, because there are a couple where you would not have, but it was a standard employed internship. You would have an SF, so Sierra Foxtrot 50. On that form, it will tell you what you were hired as, competitive or non-competitive. But remember, if you are non-competitive and you left that employment, any probationary period time served, you had that break in service, and so you would start all over again. So keep that in mind. There was something I was going to say about internships. So if you work in a federal arena under either the Wounded Warrior internship programs or the non-paid internship programs, they do not count as federal employment time served. So not only on the SF50 will you find your employment status, competitive or non-competitive, but that time, we'll say you work for 3 months, that 3 months goes toward when they're actually adjudicating how much time you have, when they're trying to determine the amount of vacation time you'll earn, sick time you'll earn, time before retirement. It's all a gestalt. It's all an accumulative number. It's not 3 months, and then unless you work 5 more years, it doesn't count. It would be pretty much 3 months, and not 4 years, 9 months before you could be vested. So that's why you should keep those documents very, whether it's electronic or hard copy, it doesn't matter. If you don't have it, go to OPM. They will be able to get you a copy, or at least let you know exactly where to write for a copy of it. The Wounded Warrior programs and the non-paid warrior programs, you are still attached to your branch of service. And so you cannot be considered a federal employee because you have an employee. You are just in those programs to transition you out of a military career that you may or may not be able to continue to follow, as well as transition you over to the civilian side of the house. And we are a little bit different. I will admit to that. And I have not served in the military. However, I am a military spouse, so I've walked my husband through this process as well. The other thing that I want you to consider when you're writing your resume, when you're sitting down and staring in front of that great Word document in the sky and wondering, how do I even begin this thing? And no one will understand what I did in the military, or I can't release proprietary information. You're right, you cannot. Please do not. But you can list what you did. If you were going to write a competent AAR and put it on your commander's desk, pardon my screen for showing that, it better be good. Because if it's not, you know as well as I do, you're going to get it slapped back in your face, and you may hear things that mixed company or may or may not want to hear, and you may walk out with several body parts rearranged figuratively, not literally. So consider that when you are writing this resume. How do you know which jobs are offered as competitive, non-competitive? Good question. Every job is offered as competitive and non-competitive, unless you are specifically going through certain portals that only accept candidates that can meet Schedule A or veteran requirements. There are not many, and you would actually have to be directed towards them. So I wouldn't worry about that. Any job on USA Jobs, you can apply either way. So you retire. So somebody retired from the Air Force in 2006. Definitely have a VA rating. What would I need to get a Schedule A? Here's my contact information. Let's get that on the screen right away. There's my email, and there is my phone number. I really want to thank all of you that got online today. I know you took an hour out of your time. I hope you enjoyed it. I would be more than glad to answer questions. Just send them to me through the email, and I will definitely answer them as quickly as I possibly can. One last closing thing. Social media. Walk away, walk very far away. Yes, it is looked at. Yes, they will track you. No, you cannot hide certain things on certain social media sites. And if you are going to use it, I think it's great. And we're done.